Hello everyone, today in this video we'll fight against the advanced character of our world around us, and this time we will discuss some historical analogies to the modern times. There is such a book by Mr. Eric Klein, American archaeologist, and this book is entitled 1177 BC, the year in which civilization collapsed, something like this. And it was first published about 20 years ago, and this book starts with the nice description of the Bronze Age world in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, so from Mesopotamia to approximately Mycenaean Greece, and Mr. Klein offers us beautiful description of the cultural and merchant trade routes, merchant contacts and trade routes within this complex world that we can track both thanks to the written sources, clay tablets in which we have a lot of information, and discoveries of archaeology, for instance, like shipwrecks with many goods, because the trade was done both ways, through the land on caravans and through the ships on Mediterranean and big rivers like in Mesopotamia, Persian Gulf and so on, Red Sea. So we see that we have a lot of material, and quite accurately we can recreate the past, how the relations between the states looked like and how complex and interesting and interconnected was this world in the Eastern Mediterranean. And this world collapsed at the turn of 13th and 12th century BC. We know that for the first decades of the 12th century BC, Trojan War is dated. It took place, yes, and many other events. Hittite Empire collapsed, that's why Hittites couldn't help Trojan army anymore, and Egypt also pushed back the great invasions of the peoples of the sea, so-called mysterious groups of invaders from the Western Mediterranean that invaded the Eastern Mediterranean, changed in many places ethnographical landscape, and after some time, 1 or 2 centuries after their invasions, new civilizations emerged. In Greece it took a little bit longer, these dark ages, but about 9th-8th century BC, still Greece, we call it archaic Greece, up to the late 6th, beginning of 5th century. When we have classical period, Greece is being recreated on the ruins of Mycenaean civilization and some seemingly additions of the peoples of the sea invaders. There are many theories where did people of the sea came from. I follow the theory that tells us that these were Atlanteans and other nations from the Western Mediterranean escaping the collapse of the Atlantis at the end of the 12th century BC. Atlantis was a small civilized island, Bronze Age civilization level that was more or less at the height of the current Canary Island, and it somehow ceased to exist. These are the details we need to study. And there were also many catastrophic events like some changes of the weather, or even some maybe volcano eruption in South Mediterranean and other stuff like this, earthquakes. So it pushed also other nations from the Western Mediterranean to migrate into the more peaceful eastern part, which was actually quite heavily populated and occupied by other nations. That's why we have these invasions of people of the sea. And as I mentioned, this all complicated world of the Eastern Mediterranean that we date from the 16th century BC down to the turn of the 13th and 12th century BC, we have these very complicated networks of international interactions, documented also in the diplomatic correspondence that preserved till our times. We can say that this can show us the model of our current world, because we had for many years, about 300 years, two basic empires, so ancient Egypt and new kingdom of ancient Egypt, and Hittite empire, that were rivals for the main position as a superpower for this world, and ruling other weaker states and city-states like in Syria. And also there were also for the shorter period of times different short-living empires like Mitanni that tried to also compete with Egypt and Hittites, but more or less for 300 years geopolitical landscape didn't change much. After the invasions of people of the sea, Hittite empire collapsed, and some Neo-Hittite kingdoms, small ones in Syria, survived for a few centuries to come. Egypt survived, but it was never so powerful anymore. And later, we know that in the beginning of 11th century, God divided into two kingdoms. So after the end of Ramesside dynasty, the most powerful Egyptian dynasty, from which we have also the greatest leader of Egypt, Ramses II the Great. So we see that this word can be used with a very good approximation as a model to describe our world, with two main superpowers nowadays, US and China, and also third one like maybe Mitanni, Russia. Russia was replacing China in the position of weaker second superpower up to more or less 1991. Up to 2015 there was a period of absolute US dominance, but now we see that we have Russian-Chinese tandem trying to challenge again American dominance. So we have more or less, and many smaller states in between. So it nicely fits to the Bronze Age and late Bronze Age model of geopolitical relations we can recreate from the clay tablets. And we also have huge demographic, cultural, economic and natural changes that give us some reasons to think that we can follow the path of the Bronze Age civilizations. Also we have the problem with massive migrations, more and more aggressive ones. So if we want to know what can happen with us and how it can happen and how we can prevent it, because we should be wiser, learning from history, let's study the history of the Bronze Age, of the half of the second millennium BC up to the time when the end of this period came, so turn of 13th and 12th BC, and let's learn from it to avoid the mistakes from the past. I hope it's still possible. That's why we should learn from history, especially when we have period which is so much similar and so much analogical to our own. When we look at the problems they had to face, the level how they were organized and interconnected, and the even geopolitical situation which really resembles our own, which we have now on the global scale. All the best, have a nice day, bye.